Next we'll look at some of the rig components you need to make this trace. First of all, obviously you'll need some pipe wire. I like to use the Drennan soft strand because it's quite a supple wire. It doesn't kink as easily as the more traditional 7-strand wires, and also it gives that bit of suppleness when the pipe picks up a bait, which I think is quite important. Next you'll obviously need some hooks. The ones that I like to use for pike fishing is the Owner ST36 Pike Treble. Really strong, extremely sharp. The only thing with them, they only come in a fully barbed version, so one important thing is to always remember to crimp 2 of the barbs down with some pliers before you use them. Just leave one of them there for holding the bait. Then you need some crimps. You only need 2 of these per trace, so a pack of them tends to last quite a while. You want to get the smallest diameter ones you can get away with for the size wire that you're using. For the 28-pound pipe wire, I tend to find a 0.8mm crimp is about the optimum size for that. Then you also need some kind of crimp covers. Now, there's various ones available. There are some made by certain companies now that are specific crimp covers. These ones are made by Grays and they go over the top treble. They also do a slimline crimp cover for your bottom treble. But I like to use the ones that are made by King of the Pond. And these are sold as anti-tangle booms. They do the mini anti-tangle boom, which is ideal for going over your top treble. They've got quite a large bore at the top and makes quite a neat and tidy job. And then they also do the standard anti-tangle boom, which is this kind of size, and they're perfect for your bottom treble. They've still got an amount of flexibility, so they won't interfere with the hooking capabilities of your rig. And then lastly, you're going to need something to keep your traces in, such as a trace bin. This one's made by Fox. There's a lot of them out there, but this one, besides having an improved hook design here for hooking onto the loops on your trace, it's also a bit deeper than most models out there, which is why I use this one. And that just stores everything safely. Obviously there's a lot of hook points, a lot of barbs in there. You don't want them getting into your tackle bag or into you. So yeah, that's quite an important bit of kit. Now we're going to look at actually making the trace, and the first step, you need your pike wire, you'll need your lighter, and to get a nice neat end on your wire, what you do is you hold it over a flame until it glows red, and then you get your snips, just trim that end off, and it leaves you with I doubt you'll be able to see this, but it leaves you with a really nice neat end, no frayed edges, which is quite important because it'll make it easier once you get to tying the trace. Then the first thing you thread on there, and you thread it tail end first, is one of your crimp covers. So that goes on there, followed by one of the crimps itself, which for those of you that don't know, it's just a little copper tube there. So you slide that on once, followed by your hook. And then what we need to do is double this tag end back so that the treble is on a loop, and you pass that through the bottom end of the crimp. Shove that in, make sure it's nice and secure, and make sure that the wire at the loose end is just sticking out the end of the crimp there, and then you know you've got proper purchase. You pull the loop down and then get your crimping pliers and then just give it a nice tight squeeze, which will end up looking something like this, and you can see the teeth marks there, which are made by the serrated jaws of the crimping pliers. You sometimes find that you've got quite a square sharp edge on the top of your crimp, and if that happens, I just get it in the corner of the crimping pliers and just give it a tiny squeeze, and that just takes the corner off it, makes it a bit less prone to tangling. And then once that's done, you can slide down your crimp cover over that crimp, and that just tidies everything up, makes it nice and smooth when you're casting. There's no sharp edges there for the line to get caught on, so it's going to catch more fish. Next, you need to decide how long your trace is going to be. I usually make mine between 12 and 18 inches depending on the rig that I'm using. So we'll go for probably about a 14-inch trace, about average. So you find where you want. Again, you hold the lighter underneath the wire until it glows red. And then with a little bit of tension on the wire, you snip that off, which will give you a nice neat end once more. And for the next stage, to put your second hook on, you thread the second treble onto the wire. Now, depending on the size of your bait will determine how far apart you have your trebles, but for an average bait it's just above, probably an inch above the crimp cover for me. And obviously on these crimp covers you can trim them down. If you find they're getting in the way, you're only covering the crimp, so you can make those shorter. So then you lay the wire trace down the treble as so, and then you double this wire back and hook it under one of the bends of your hook, so that it's effectively formed a loop around the shank of the hook there. And then with this top end, you wrap it around the shank 5 or 6 times, and always keep a bit of tension on the wire while you're doing this. It just helps keep it all neat and tidy. Then you pass the end of your wire back through the eye, and pull tight, and again make sure you keep the tension there, and you'll end up with a nicely wrapped hook like that. Then we get the top crimp cover, and this time you thread it on the wide end first and slide it down until we're at the top treble. Again, if you've let go of the wire, sometimes it'll make the whippings round the hook just come a bit loose, so make sure they're all tight before you proceed any further. And then you need to shove this cover over the whippings on the shank of the hook. Can be a bit tight depending on the hook size you've got. Just manipulate it as far down as you can, and then you've got a nice secure top hook. Now with all those whippings, that's not going to slip anywhere. Your cover's tidied it up, so there's nothing to get snagged there or unravel anything. And then you've just got the free end. Now, I did used to use a swivel on all my traces. Nowadays I don't, I just crimp a loop on the end, and I'll show you why in a second. So for my new method of trace attachment, what you need is another one of these anti-tangle booms, and you thread that on pointy end first, which the hole's not quite big enough, so just nip the end off. So you thread that on there, make sure you've still got a nice tidy end on your wire. It can get frayed the more components you're passing it through. So we'll get another crimp here and just thread it on, make a loop and thread it back into itself. And pull the loop down till you're ready. Give it another hard squeeze and then tidy it up ever so slightly. And there we go. So now we've got a completed trace. You might be wondering what this extra anti-tangle boom is for. And that's because I use these King of the Pond quick change swivels, and they've got a little R-shaped clip on one end of them, which is great for making your traces quick change. So you can, when you come to unhooking a fish, you can get your rest of your rig completely out of the way. It leaves you just with your wire trace and the fish, so it can make unhooking a lot easier. Also, the little boom can give you something to bite on if you're on your own and you need to keep some tension on your trace while you're unhooking. So it's quite a handy little design. And all you do, you just pass the loop into that little R-clip. Can be a bit tight with wire, but there we go, it's snapped into place. And then you simply pull your boom over the crimp. And onto the swivel, and you're ready to cast out. There is another method that I use. I used this before the KOP quick change swivels came out, which is to have a standard swivel and one of these quick change solar clips. They're a really strong clip, so I'm happy to use them for pike fishing. And first you put the clip onto the swivel, which is normally far easier than I'm now demonstrating. There we go. And then use one of these extra long buffer beads, which Solar also make, and King of the Pond do a version as well. And they've just got a tiny hole in the end there, and what you do, you squeeze the loop of your wire trace into that hole and then over the crimp, and pass that through till it's attached. And then same again as we did with the King of the Pond quick change swivel, you just hook on your wire onto the clip, and then this extra long buffer bead pushes up and over the clip, and that will keep it secure, and it also tidies everything up, making it less tangle prone. And that's a really tidy way of attaching your rig. Now all that's left to do is to store your trace on your rig bin, where it can be kept safely until you're ready to use it to catch some pike, which hopefully it will. Thanks for watching.